Hello, everyone, and welcome back. We are in chapter 7. Woohoo! Just getting on down the road there, huh? We're like more than halfway done with the class. Wow. Um, so this week we're talking about deities and places of worship in terms of the art in and around these places. So the supernatural realm lies beyond our senses, yet in almost every age and culture, people have created diagrams, symbols, pictures that express to some extent their understanding of divinity. Um, this is a transformation mask from the 20th century in British Columbia. Um, Painted wood. So humans strive constantly to grasp divine realm through rituals, oral tradition, sacred writings, meditation, prayer, music, and art. Religions and their imagery of deities and holy beings. So this is Dome Rock in Jerusalem, 687 to 692. So colorful. So simple geometric shapes often symbolize God. The sphere and dome in Islamic architecture stand for the heavens and the oneness of God. The circle in the Hindu religion symbolizes the unknowable supreme being, and the triangle stands for the Christian Trinity. Oh, are these out of? Oh, I don't know. The animal features or natural phenomena can symbolize deities. So the sun can be a symbol for God. Jesus is symbolized by a sacrificial lamb. The Holy Spirit by a dove or by fire. Other religions are animistic, with natural elements or animals as deities, like this. I see like a bird, a lot of different birds, hawks. In many religions, God is not pictured. Most African religions and the Hindu religion recognize a completely unknowable supreme being. In the Islamic religion, Allah is never depicted. This is from 1612 to 1637. Animism. Oh, hey, look at who it is. My lady. So animism. All forces of nature are inhabited by spirits. A rock or tree can be carved into an image to bring out the natural force. In the Venus of Willendorf, it was believed to contain the spiritual force of procreation, an important aid to ancient fertility rituals. Polytheism is the belief in many gods. The Earth Mother, first of the polytheistic gods, the giver of life, fertility, and the carrier of death. In ancient myths, the goddess existed first. The snake goddess likely evolved from the Earth Mother. She represents male and female regenerative powers. This is Minoan from the Palace of Knossos, 1600 BCE. Beautiful. I love how her hands, she has like, what is that, like a bird or something on her head? And then her hands, she's like powerful. She's like, ah, like those are her snakes or whatever. She's in power. She was a powerful goddess, obviously, because it says power, right? You can feel it. So the open bodice and prominent breasts tied to early fertility goddesses. Oh, okay. Not saggy boobs. High, perky ones. Intense expression and upraised arms energize the figure. Absolutely. She's like, like she's about to like rage, right? Snakes also represent male sexuality, female fertility, and regenerative powers connected to snakes shedding of the skin. And the leopard-like animal on her head may symbolize royalty. Oh, it's a leopard. Okay. Or like a cat, right? Kind of. The tiered dress and hairstyle also represented Minoan fashion of the time. So the ancient Greeks believed all life on earth began with Gaia, the earth goddess. The Greek gods of Olympus were her descendants. Greek gods were always portrayed in human form according to the Greek aesthetic rule of proportion. Later, classic depictions had convincing anatomy and movement. They were idealized and flawless. Here's Zeus or Poseidon. Greece, not 460 BCE, bronze in Athens. I want to go to Athens so bad. It looks like he had something in his hand, like a bow or something. You see how his hand has a circle on it? So compare these two figures. So on the right, we have the goddess Hathor and the overseer of sealers in the Psamtik Saqqara, Egypt, late 26th dynasty or 6th century BCE. It was a gray stone base, and the height of cow to horns is 33 inches. So what is the difference here in terms of like showing the gods or goddess? There's writings. He's got a bull like on his head. He's like got it above him. And he's kind of like standing still, whereas we have an action eye, the Greek guy's going for it. He's like gonna take it down. He's like throwing things at you. He's definitely, his arms are open and energized. So he's shown as a chief among Greek gods. A mature male, ideal, godlike in his physique, larger than life-size figure, monumental, muscular, ideally proportioned, and conveys action and energy, poised and dignified. The deities of ancient Egypt were personifications of natural forces. Most were represented as animals or animal-human combinations. The goddess Hathor was associated with the sky, stars, love, mirth, and joy, depicted as a human and a cow. The goddess Hathor encompasses and hovers protectively over Psamtik and the Egyptian official. She is identified by horns, which surround the head of a cobra, a sign of royalty. The combination of horns and sun disk, which symbolize royalty and divinity, are a calm and majestic face. Yeah, she's much more chill, but like feels like she's embodying the cow, right? Mesoamerican cultures often link the gods with corn and water because water was essential, and corn symbolically stood for all food. So the goddess Zillinin's important function was to promote abundant growth of the corn crops. This is in Mexico, Veracruz, 1000 to 1200. Zillinin was the protector of young corn plants. The head is rounded, human-like, grandly adorned. The headdress is adorned with ornamental bands and ears of corn. I know, it looks like he's just like got corn seriously just coming out at all places. She wears a collar made of sun rays. Heavy pendants decorate her ears. The jade necklace symbolizes crop fertility. Also from Mesoamerica, Tlaloc, the rain deity, made crops flourish. Tlaloc was traditionally known with distinctive features like circular eyes, twisted serpent nose, a fanged mouth, a headdress, large ear ornaments, and flattened features that rendered as geometric shapes. This is a vessel from Aztec, 1440 to 1469 in Mexico City. You can go see it. So how do all of these Mesoamerican artists show the divine status of Tlaloc and Zillinin to the way that divinity is shown in Minoan and Greek gods? Like how different? Compare and contrast. Think about that. Pantheism. Pantheism is the belief that a divine spirit pervades all things in the universe. Hinduism appears to have numerous gods, but it is pantheism rather than polytheism. All of their gods or manifestations are avatars of a divine universal spirit, the Brahman, the unbounded. This is Shiva, or Lord of the Dance, Punjai, 1000. So cool. Brahman is one pure being, pure intelligence, and pure delight, and is therefore unknowable. Shiva, an avatar, is good and evil, male and female, unity in which all opposites meet, the destroyer of life who also recreates it, terrible and at the same time mild. Shiva has often been depicted as the lord of the dance. His body, like a dancer, supple, sleek, graceful. He stands in perfect balance. He is the embodiment of cosmic energy. The balanced pose is the concept of eternal stillness. Multiple arms tell of his power. Divine wisdom is shown by the third eye in the middle of his forehead, and his far right hand holds an hourglass-shaped drum, and beating stands for creation and the passing of time. The second right arm is coiled by a snake, symbolizing regeneration. The mudra is a sign of protection. The far left hand balances a flame that symbolizes destruction, and the left foot is elevated in the dance, indicating release from this earth. Right foot crushes ignorance. The circle of fire radiating around Shiva shows the unfolding and transformation of the universe and its destruction. Wow, that's a lot. Buddhism. I think there's something about Buddhism. Maybe this slide on the quiz. Buddhism follows the teachings of Siddhartha and Gautama. For several hundred years after his death, Buddha was represented by a set of symbols, but never as a human. Later in Buddhism, its founder is depicted as the enlightened one, the Buddha. This is in India, late 5th, early 6th century. This is also in India, the dome, 50-foot dome, 3rd century. One symbol for a Sakya Muni was the stupa. Stupa. A sign of his death and an attainment of nirvana. Originally, a stupa was a mound tomb. It eventually was transformed into a monument that contained the ashes of, or relics of, a Buddha. Some of the stupa symbolism, the form represented the cosmos, a dwelling place of the ancient gods and sacred womb of the universe. The low balustrade wall contained 4 heraldic gates called Toranas, which are located at the 4 cardinal points. The square enclosure on the top of the dome symbolized the heavens. The mast with umbrellas, called Kshatras, united the world with the paradises above. Kshatras signified the levels of human consciousness through the human soul, and it ascends to enlightenment. The stupa, as a symbol of Buddhahood, spread throughout Asia, although there were local variations in its design. Later, sects emphasized a more personal Buddha. Early sculptures were variations of older Hindu spirits with Buddha identifying attributes. The top knot of hair, a cranial bump indicating wisdom, a circle. It's kind of funny because when we think top knots now, I don't know. Is it wisdom? I don't know. A circle between the eyebrows, and earlobes were long since he was once a bejeweled prince. In later images, the emphasis was on the serenity of Buddha. The body seems almost weightless. The torso and limbs are simplified, graceful lines, elegant shapes. Clothing is sheer and clinging, unworldly in its draping and perfection. Tall arches of the brow, downcast eyes, quiet, sensual mouth, and a transcendent serenity. Seated in a lotus position, abstracted foliage represents the tree of enlightenment. Over the centuries, Buddhist beliefs became more complex. Ooh, I think this is on the quiz. Bodhisattvas. Let me say it again. Bodhisattvas are living beings who have attained Buddhahood but have chosen to remain on earth to help others. Definitely on the quiz. Depictions of Guanyin vary radically with 2 to 12 arms, crowned, sometimes with a muscular male body or with an effeminate body. Interesting. The Water and Moon, Guanyin Bodhisattva, 1100. Monotheism. All right, so this is the synagogue at Dura Europa, Syria, 245 to 256. Interior with wall paintings of biblical themes. It's in Damascus. Monotheism is belief in one God and that there is no other. Judaism is the what is one of the oldest monotheistic religions of the Western world and also the foundation of Christianity and Islam. It was thought that the making of images in the Jewish faith was forbidden because of the second commandment. The images have found in scripture illumination have been found in scripture illumination and on the walls of ancient synagogues. So the synagogue at Dura Europos was transformed into a place of worship in the 2nd century. Wow, look at the colors. The paintings on the walls illustrate stories found in the Hebrew Bible. Figures have stylized gestures, lack expression, mass, and depth. They stand in frontal rows. The action was not depicted, and Yahweh is shown as a hand. Yahweh is God. Wow. Christianity has many kinds of images of God. Some understand God as a single being. Others conceive of God as a trinity. As an actual historical figure, Jesus is the most commonly depicted as a shepherd, a royal ruler, a miracle worker, a judge, a teacher, a beautiful child, and a dying man. In Madonna of the Meadow, Jesus is the center, his cousin, St. John the Baptist, at the left, and Mary is his mother. The children, sweet but solemn. The cross pretends their roles of savior and prophet, human but dignified and divine. Mary and children fit into an implied triangle, the sacred shape of the Trinity. Mary completely contains the form of Jesus. She is his mother. She is a symbol for the church. The harbor implies protection. Mary was known as the port of salvation. Raphael, 1500, that's the Renaissance. Matthias Grunwald, the Eisenheim altarpiece in Germany, 1500, oil on wood. Center panel is the crucifixion. The Eisenheim altarpiece shows Jesus at death, a moment both of annihilation and of redemption from sin. It's conceptual rather than a realistic representation. So the lamb holding a cross, bleeding into a chalice, symbolizes animal sacrifice of the past and the current offering of bread and wine. People who were present at the crucifixion are omitted. St. John the Baptist is shown, although he was dead at the time. The painting consoled hospital patients. They could see the suffering of Christ and relate it to their own suffering. Islam, founded by Muhammad in the 7th century Arabia, the Quran believes in complete submission to Allah, the same deity of the Jewish and the Christian faiths. Islam's sacred scriptures, the Quran, contain the articles of faith. Images of Allah are forbidden, but the Prophet Muhammad is sometimes shown in art. It's hard to find. 1594, Istanbul. Interesting. In a glorious array of fire and clouds, the veiled Muhammad ascends into heaven accompanied by angels. So how do humans respond to God? Religious ceremonies, prayers, rituals acknowledge God and request what is needed for earthly or spiritual existence. Many religions require humans to make offerings to the gods as outward signs of their devotion. Art frequently is part of this process. Back to the transformation mask. Ceremonies. The Kwaikutl of the of the Northwest Coast built special houses for the winter ceremonies. Performers were in full masquerade and told stories and became the supernatural beings of their mask. During the performance, the character changes from an earthly being to a supernatural being. The dancer turns and manipulates the mask with hidden strings and devices and turns it into a completely different mask. The intent of this magical event was to make humans fear the supernatural. Though rituals using transformation masks like this one, through rituals, the Kwaikutl people could access the spirit world. Retablo of Maria de la Cruz Casillas and Children, Central Mexico, 1961. Wow. Oh, you know what? Retablo is on the quiz. So offerings. In central Mexico, believers leave small votive paintings called retablos at important religious shrines as a form of prayer and thanks. Definitely on the quiz. What is a retablo? Retablo of Maria de la Cruz Casillas and children. The translation reads, I give thanks to the holiest Virgin of San Juan de los Lagos for having made me so great a miracle of saving me in a dangerous operation that was performed on me for the second time on the 9th day of October 1960 in Los Angeles, California, which put me at the doors of death, but entrusted to so miraculous a virgin I could recover my health, which I make apparent the present retablo in sign of thanksgiving. That's so cool. Make a painting as an offering. Maria is seen twice, a helpless and vulnerable patient, as the supplicant with her children. The Virgin looms large in the gray room with golden rays. Extraneous details are omitted to emphasize Maria's helplessness and the Virgin's power. The Balinese commemorate religious days by giving handmade offerings. They regard these offerings as artworks and consider many of the people to be artists. Religion and art are integrated components of everyday life. This is an offering with Sealy-shaped crown, Bali, 1985. Flowers and fruit, palm leaves. Beautiful. Sacrifices. Yeah, I believe there's some discussion of sacrifices on the quiz. So various forms of religious blood sacrifices have been practiced throughout the ages. Judeo-Christian religions have a history of blood sacrifices. One sacrifice tells of Abram, who prepared to kill his son Isaac at God's command, but at the last minute was allowed to substitute a ram. This is in Florence, Italy, 1401. The sacrifice of Isaac shows an emotionally intense moment. Isaac's nude body as perfect, increasing the merit of the sacrifice. A ram, not visible in our detail, became an acceptable offering. This relief illustrates the ultimate test of faith in the Jewish and Christian religion. Oh, there's the full one. In other cultures, human offerings to deities also involved blood sacrifice. That is on the quiz. So what human offerings and deities also involved blood sacrifice? In various Mesoamerican cultures. Maya, Toltec, Aztec, and others practiced blood sacrifice to the sun. Okay. Shield Jaguar and Lady Jacques. An example of a bloodletting ceremony. So what is this an example of? A bloodletting ceremony. The Mayan ruler holds a torch over his principal wife. She pulls a thorny rope through a hole in her tongue, and blood sacrifices had to be performed by a high-ranking person. The rank shows by wrist bracelets, necklaces, crowns, and garbs that he's wearing. Flattened foreheads were signs of beauty. More extreme forms of blood sacrifice were practiced, such as cutting out the hearts of captured warriors or captains of ball teams. Or the captains of ball teams. That's in Chiapas, Mexico. 750. It's a relief. Prayer. Prayer is a vehicle of communication between humans, be the gods. It can take many forms. The Hopis of North America make small sculptures as a form of prayer. They're called Kachina dolls. Yep, that's on the quiz. What dolls are these called from the Hopis in North America? Kachinas. Kachina. They believe kachinas, or spirits of the dead, dwell in their community for 6 months in winter and spring. So kachinas ensure the welfare of the community and sufficient moisture for the crops. Male members of the Hopi community perform as kachinas during religious festivals. They also carve dolls that reproduce the costume of specific spirits. The colors of the dolls represent sacred directions. North is blue or green, west is yellow, south is red, east is white. The heavens are multicolor, and the nadir is black. During ceremonies, children receive the dolls to educate them. Women receive them as symbols of fertility. Dolls are hung from rafters in houses as blessings and as prayers for rain and good crops. The power figure in the Congo. There's definitely something on the study guide about that. Is an art object used as a form of prayer to counter the evil influence of enemies, human, animal, or spiritual. Shamans activate them, placing medicines in the figure's abdomen or in the back of the head. The figure's power is released by driving in a metal nail or blade for each request for help. This is in Zaire, 98. The cosmos. Artists in different traditions have made works that map the cosmos, showing the origin of the world, the structure of the universe, spiritual beings, the place of humans in relation to the gods, and it can be a diagram of time. This is Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel. This is the ceiling of it. They don't let you take photos inside the Sistine Chapel, so it's hard to get these photos if you go, just so you know. You gotta sneak a picture with no flash. 1508, it's a fresco. The images on the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel present the origin of the universe, human beings, and sin. There's cosmic moments that God is depicted as a powerful older man in pink robes that separates light from darkness. God creates the sun and moon. He separates the water from land. He creates Adam and Eve. Adam and Eve break God's commandment, create original sin, and then they have expulsion from paradise. That's the very top panel. I would love to just lay down and look at this like this, but when you go there, it's just so many people and people are fainting. It's really dramatic. People will have real, like, holy experiences there. I mean, I saw a few people faint when we were just standing there looking at it, and that, usually when you go to a museum or something, you're like, oh, wow, this is great. Okay. So here's the layout, because it's just so complicated, right? Like, look at this. Like, when you go and look at it, you're just like, what? You don't know what to look at, and you're looking up. So this is great. I would print this out. If you guys are going to go to the Sistine Chapel, print this out and bring it with you. So then you have like a kind of a map. So here we have the creation, the downfall, the 3 stories of Noah, the pendatives, the prophets, the sibyls, ancestors, and the last judgment wall. Wow. Let me look at this again. Wait. That's the opposite way. Okay. You gotta see it to believe it, right? Ooh, the mandala. Is there something on the quiz about that? I believe so. The mandala is a radial balance. Radial is what? A principle of design, right? Radial. It's a geometric diagram augmented by images of deities, humans, and symbols of the universe. The mandala forms a map of the structure of the cosmos. This is a mandala of Samvara in Tibet, 16th century. Mandala reinforces the belief that the cosmos, including the physical and spiritual worlds, is an uninterrupted whole of continually fluctuating energy states. The circle symbolizes the void before creation. The image of the god will appear in this emptiness, and the deity Samvara rules and sets the universe into motion. Ooh, a ziggurat. I want to go see some ziggurats. Third dynasty in Iraq. 28150 BCE? Wow. Places of worship and their general characteristics. So places of worship may shelter a congregation, house secret objects, incorporate elements of nature, incorporate symbolic geometry, and be sites of sacred ceremonies and pilgrimage. This is the Ark of the Covenant and sanctuary implements Hamath near Tiberias, 4th century. It's a mosaic. Housing sacred objects. Many places of worship were built specifically to house a sacred image, text, or artifact. In the Jewish religion, the most holy structure is called the Ark of the Covenant, and it's a special tabernacle to hold sacred objects. That's the whole premise to Indiana Jones, right? The first one. Where's the Ark of the Covenant? Okay, so incorporating elements of nature. So the places of worship can be natural sites. near mountains or meeting places, or replicate mountains, right? Mountains are meeting places between heaven and earth. Sacred trees or groves are dwelling places of divine beings. Rocks are containers or symbols for spirits and deities. Earth and water are the sources or sustainers of life. Fire, light, and the sun are divine symbols of spirit themselves. The ziggurat at is a sacrificed artificial mountain, a sacred artificial mountain erected by the Sumerians of to honor their special deity. The word ziggurat means mountain or pinnacle. Surrounded by flat land, this terraced tower of rubble and brick seemed to reach into the heavens. The Shinto religion teaches that forests and enormous stones are sacred dwellings of the gods of nature, called the kami, or the kami. The kami are prevailed upon to enter the shrine, where their powers are worshipped and their aid solicited. This is in Japan in 685. The main shrine at Ise is made of natural materials, wood and thatch, rebuilt every 20 years to exactly the same specifications. The builders observe careful rituals and express gratitude as they take wood from the forest. The wood is left plain and unpainted to retain its natural character, and it's carefully fitted and jointed with pegs. Nails are not used. Using geometry symbolically. Many cultures use geometry and symmetry to symbolize divinity, totality, perfection, and timelessness. This is Stonehenge. I believe there's something on the quiz about this. 2000 BCE. They're still trying to figure out what's going on at Stonehenge. I don't know if you guys noticed some people spray painted Stonehenge recently, which is just terrible. Hate it that people are using art as the platform for protesting and destroying all our cultural artistic heritages. Stonehenge is an altar and an astronomical device mapping solar and planetary movement. The arrangement marks the midsummer solstice, essential to an agrarian civilization. Oh, this is my favorite place ever. I think I went there 3 times when I was in Rome. I just couldn't stop going here. Like, the Vatican was a lot. This, I don't know, I felt the spirit in this building. This is the Pantheon in Rome. It was a shrine to the chief deities of the Roman Empire. And it was really before Christ, when Rome was still pagan and influenced by the Greek gods. So you could feel that. But later, when you go lower on this Pantheon, see, up here, that's the pagan part. And then later, they added all these saints. And so then it becomes more Christian, obviously, and Catholic. But it was built in 118 to 125. And when I went a couple times, I went different times of the day because the light's different. And one time it was raining, and just rain was coming through, and it was just gorgeous. It's amazing. Anyway, it's a 142-foot diameter sphere that fits into the interior space, making the width equal to its height. They don't know how they made this at that time, because it's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. The structure is symmetrical and creates the impression of loftiness, simplicity, and balance. The oculus creates a shaft of sunlight that illuminates the interior. Providing sites for sacred ceremonies and pilgrimages. Places of worship can be sites for sacred ceremonies and pilgrimages. A pilgrimage is a journey to a shrine or sacred place for believers hoping to receive special blessings or deepening of faith. The Muslims journey to Mecca, the Jews to Jerusalem, Catholics to Lourdes, and Hindus to various shrines. This is in the Yellow River, China. Cool. So cool. Beautiful. Look how big they are. Look how big those statues are. Longmen Caves in China, a Buddhist pilgrimage destination, is a complex of cave shrines for thousands of sacred statues dedicated to Buddha. The largest of these is the monumental Shrine to Vairocana Buddha, who is the universal principle dominating all life and all phenomena. Le Corbusier, Notre Dame, France. Notre Dame du Haut is a Catholic chapel in the Vosges Mountains of France. The design recalls praying hands, the wings of a dove, and the shape of a boat. Beautiful. To accommodate large crowds on holy days, the church has an outdoor altar and pulpit so that services could be conducted for 12,000 pilgrims on the lawn. Wow. Dome of the Rock in Jerusalem, we just saw this one. It is a historic and sacred pilgrimage place for Jews, Christians, and Muslims. Built on a rock platform, it occupies, and the site is believed to be the burial place of Adam, the altar upon which Abraham's son Isaac was saved by an angel, the Hebrew temple that was destroyed by the Roman Emperor Titus, and the stone from which Muhammad ascended to heaven. That's a lot. It's all of those things. Temple complexes and large-scale sacred architecture. These complexes incorporated the characteristics of sacred sites. A religion that is firmly established and tied to political power can afford expensive, labor-intensive, long-term projects. Grand places of worship are expressions of temporal power, religious power, and broad cultural values. This is the first hypostyle hall. Horus's temple at Edfu in Egypt is 237 to 57 BCE. The roof slabs are 50 feet from the floor. Ugh, I want to go to Egypt so bad. Oh, wow. Compare the plans of 6 major sites. How did they design these? They didn't have AI then. Oh, the Parthenon. I want to go there. I heard it's being redone. That's why the picture you see, I heard it's constantly they're fixing it. They're kind of retrofitting it, basically. It's imposing in size and lavish detail. These structures are spectacles and amazing to see. In ceremonies, the individual is reduced to a spectator, part of the throng that adds to the religious importance of the site. In the temple design, the Parthenon is an example of classic Greek architecture. It is more graceful and refined than older temples, but like them, was covered in using the post and lintel system. Remember we learned about post and lintel? This particular style or order of temple was called Doric. That might be on the quiz. I don't know. Maybe. Architects Ictinos and Callicrates treated the Parthenon more like a sculpture than an architecture. Like a pedestal, the steps form the base for the structure, higher at the middle of each side and lower at the corners to counteract the illusion of sagging in the middle. The Parthenon contains optical illusions. It also has the golden ratio, which we'll study when you take my design classes. Horsemen from the Parthenon frieze in Athens, Greece, 440. It's marble. So the Parthenon had 2 rooms for housing sacred objects. Religious ceremonies took place outside, and the exterior richly adorned with sculpture and brightly painted. Large sculptures of the gods stood in the pediment and near the roof, and long band of sculpture called a frieze. A long band of sculpture is called a frieze, which is geared at the top outside walls of the Parthenon. Gods and humans are similarly rendered as round and lifelike with carefully carved muscles, but they are dignified, composed, well-proportioned, and idealized. The plan of the temple is a mandala, a geometric size drawing that symbolizes the universe. Geometry and its significance. So here's the Parthenon, the Acropolis. There's a courtyard, cathedral. I want to go to the Temple of Athena. I love her. Athena Nike. Mathematical proportions in Greek philosophy. The Greeks were engaged in a search for perfection in science, geometry, art, religion, and philosophy. They believed that certain geometric ratios and certain musical intervals resonated with the cosmic order and were in tune with the heavens. The Egyptian temple design remained relatively constant for 3,000 years. The Horus Temple at Edfu housed the sacred cult image of the sun, falcon Horus. Because cult temples were believed to be the actual dwellings of the gods, they were modeled after the residences of nobles and pharaohs. This is the pylons, the great pylon of the Horus Temple, 237 to 57 BCE. The pylons are 118 feet high and the facade is 230 feet wide. Unlike most Egyptian cult temples, this one is located on the west side of the Nile River. 2 covered rooms are located beyond the entrance court at Edfu. They were hypostyle halls with parallel rows of columns that supported the ceiling. The columns are huge and closely spaced. The shapes of the columns and capitals were derived from bundles of reeds used to build early Egyptian buildings. So this is the first hypostyle hall. To express divine permanence and power, Egyptians translated that original organic material into massive and monumental granite and limestone. This is the Kandayara Mahadeva Temple in India, 10th to 11th century. This is one of 30 temples at the site, dedicated to Shiva Vishnu. Main tower is 130 feet high. Ah, that's so cool. Beautiful. Hinduism is based on 2 belief systems. The first is nature-based and venerates the spirits responsible for the plant and animal life. The concept of reincarnation is an infinitely repeating cycle of life and death. The second belief system is an understanding of the cosmos in symbolic geometric terms. Temple architecture gives form to these spiritual beliefs. Earliest temples were cave temples carved into mountains like opening the earth's womb. Later temples were freestanding, thick-walled cubes containing a womb chamber that housed the cult image. The latest Hindu temples became much more elaborate, but the same basic formula of womb chamber and mountain remains. Visual unity in the temple is maintained in the basic mountain-like form and the simple umbrella shape, which represents as the unbounded that tops the tallest tower. The temple exterior is an instrument of meditation or reincarnation. Excuse me. The Buddhist temple, distinct versions of the Buddhist temple sprang up in India, Southeast Asia, Indonesia, China, Japan, and Korea. This is in Beijing, China. The temple is laid out on a north-south axis, and the altars and temples face south and the source of temperate weather and south for the source of temperate weather and abundance. Temple complexes were also carefully sited relative to the forces of wind and water. The design of the pagoda. The pagoda is a geometric shape which simplified a mountain form. Its wide eaves provide shelter from sun and rain. It gently curving violet blue tile roof, similar to the color of a dark blue sky. Outside walls are deep red with bands of gold. The interior is red lacquer with foliage that patterns in gold and blue. 28 posts on the interior support the roof. 4 central posts represent the 4 seasons of other columns and represents months of the year, the division of day and night. The marble slab with a dragon and phoenix symbolizes the emperor and the empress. The ancient Hebrew peoples seldom had a permanent homeland in the early years of their history, so a tent was likely their early place of worship, as well as a temporary temple. But in 957 BCE, King Solomon built the first temple in Jerusalem, a grand structure replacing the portable sanctuary of old. It was destroyed in 586 BCE, and the second temple was begun and dedicated in 515. The Wailing Wall in Jerusalem is believed to have been part of the remaining ruins of the old temple. The wall is one of the foundations for the platform of the Dome of the Rock. The synagogue has evolved as a community house of worship, which is worship, assembly, and study, and it also houses sacred objects. A Gothic cathedral, which is one of the most famous forms of a Catholic church. Christians saw the church as the heavenly Jerusalem on earth. Gothic cathedrals were all funded by and built in cities, indicating the rise of cities and monarchies and a decline in feudalism. The modern humanist view that the values in an individual was beginning to develop at this time. This is a Chartres Cathedral. The oldest western parts date from 1145 to 1170. A rose window is visible at the middle of the church. It's huge. Gothic cathedrals towered over the towns around them. Spires. Spire. Should know that. Spires symbolize the linking of heaven and earth. I believe that's a question on your quiz. Large windows are filled with tracery, lacy stone framework that holds glass in place. Blank spaces are covered with figurative sculptures or decorative carvings. Flying buttresses create a visual pattern of forms that jog in and out. Towers, pointed arches, buttresses, and arcades create vertical lines that continue from ground to roof. The plan of the Chartres is symmetrical in the shape of a cross, symbolizing Jesus' crucifixion at the act of salvation. The emphasis on verticality continues inside, the piers flowing gracefully up to the pointed groin vaults. The vaults seem to billow overhead rather than being stone structures that weigh tons. Wow. That's highly conceptual, right? It represents the cross. Window design. So the large stained glass windows were incredible technical achievements and powerful symbols of heavenly radiance. I think they still are. Playing with light is a really big deal. It really evokes the other, right? It evokes ethereal or a spirit or natural beauty. The rose window on the north transept of Chartres shows Old Testament prophets and kings surrounding Mary with her child Jesus. Geometry was used to locate the small scenes in the window by inscribing and rotating squares within a circle. The window is shaped like a blooming rose, a symbol of Mary. The stained glass filled the church with light. In the center are Mary and Jesus surrounded by Old Testament prophets. The Islamic mosque is thought that the plan of Muhammad's house is in Medina influenced the design of early mosques. On the wall facing Mecca was the mihrab, a special marker niche. A stepped pulpit called the minbar was usually located next to the mihrab. There are no the tall minarets could be seen from afar, giving hope to weary travelers. Minarets. This is on the quiz. Minarets are on the quiz. One of the most beautiful mosques ever constructed is in Iran, at the Royal Mosque. The Maj Shah had a very rough exterior, contrasting with the lavishly decorated interior. The spaciousness and symmetry of the mosque represent the affinity and completeness of Allah. Pattern. Ornamentation is profuse and serves several purposes. It symbolizes Allah and the suggestion of infinity and creation. It enhances the sacred character of the mosque. It identifies and makes visually distinct the various parts of the mosque. And it disguises the mosque's mass, although not the form. Calligraphic lettering become very elegant and almost indistinguishable from geometric or foliage patterns. The panels on either side of the doorway resemble Parisian weavings and tapestries. The entire complex is unified by the enormous patterned turquoise dome that illuminates the skyline. The circular dome stands for the heavens and symbolizes the oneness of Allah. The Mesoamerican temple often took the form of a pyramid with a small structure on top. History and setting. 39 miles north of Mexico City in Teotihuacan, built a vast religious center in a city high on a plateau surrounded by mountains, called Teotihuacan, or place of the gods. Pyramid of the Sun. I want to go there so bad. I hope some of you have. With the Avenue of the Dead in the foreground. 150 BC. CE. Beautiful. Look at that. So in the temple designs, in the middle of the Avenue of the Dead was the Pyramid of the Sun. The pyramid is staggering in size, covering 7.5 acres and rising 215 feet. Its huge pyramidal temple is part of an expansive complex known as the Place of the Gods. Sorry, Place of the Gods. I don't know why I want to say palace. Here's a painting in the compound. Early temples had sculptural ornamentation, but after the 3rd century, paintings were used. The deity is distinguished by her large size, frontality, and the symmetrical patterns that ornament her. The entire piece shows the Teotihuacan's fondness for elaborate symmetrical patterns. And that's it. Whew. All right, I'll see you guys in chapter 8. Have a good one.